welcome to the Gastroenteritis Blues. We have no Steve today. I'm Dan Valpone. I'm with Emily Cannell and Drew Peltzman on the production as usual. Emily, how are you?
I'm good. It's Thursday, which is almost Friday, so that's great.
That is great.
I'm good.
We hate the Sixers, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, they're the worst. Steve isn't here, like I said, but Steve always opens with a question, and he sent one in. So on behalf of Steve, Emily, here's the opening question. Who is more likely to score next for Philadelphia? Trey Turner or PJ Tucker?
The fact that that's even like a question that can like semi-jokingly be asked, like we would never say that about Joel or like Tyrese or a number of other people.
I wouldn't even ask that question about Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah, but the fact that that's like a question that you could be like, I don't know, like baseball's not that far away. I think that's like a just major flaw in what the Sixers have going on right now.
Yeah, at least he's also really slow, so it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
And we spent a second round pick to get him indirectly. So everything is great with the Sixers, and by great I mean horrible. And you see stories online. I know that I've seen multiple people talk about how they've watched the Sixers through all the awful years, and this is like the first time they're checked out on the Sixers. And honestly, like I kind of agree. Like they're so miserable. It's not the quality of the team. I mean, it is partly that, because it's very frustrating to have watched this team lose at the same point every year. It's frustrating to see how slow and lethargic they are, and how they can tend to not move the ball, and how they seem to not play hard sometimes. I mean, by their own admission in Game 6, by Tobias's admission, weren't playing hard enough in an elimination game. And that's, one thing. But it's like the style of play of this team in particular is just miserable, and everything is painful. And they were a lot more fun with when they were playing with everyone out, with Harden, Embiid, and Maxey out. That the team was just more entertaining. And I'm like, obviously we do this podcast, so I have to keep up with the games, but if we didn't, I mean, I would be like pretty checked out. I turned the Houston game on at the end, but I watched like the first half, and I was like, this is just another awful game, and I turned it off and turned it back on for the end when it was close. The Memphis game, they got smoked. So I mean, like, what are your thoughts at this point?
Yeah, I don't really know what's like going on with them. I don't think anyone does. I think if someone did, you could get paid a lot of money to fix them. But I do. I think a lot of people, like, I haven't met anyone who is like, this is excited for the Sixer season, who was like excited to go watch them play basketball. Either style of play is not exciting, nothing that they are doing is exciting, nothing's inventive or interesting or, fun to watch. The players just seem like a little bit checked out. Like even like there's been no like fun like post game comments. There's been nothing to like celebrate. Like like there's no joy in this basketball team. And if they don't look like they're having fun, I'm not gonna have fun watching them. Like they just need to like find the joy in this team somewhere. And I think maybe like skill and wins might follow that, but whatever is happening now is like kind of just like a slog to watch. It's kind of awful.
Yeah, and I mean, before someone yells at me, yes, they only lost by 8 to Memphis. They were down 16 going into the fourth quarter, so that's bad. That's getting smoked, I think. Whatever. I mean, I agree with you. Like they're not fun, and they don't seem to care, it feels sometimes, which makes it impossible to like really be a fan. Like to I mean, even last year, through all of the stuff that happened last year, I was still like wanting to get down and see a game. I went to so many games last year. And I've been to the season opener this year, and I think that was it. And like I was offered tickets at one point, I like really good tickets. Like someone had an extra ticket. And I was like, I'm kind of tired. Like I'm so checked out on this team. And it's like when you don't feel the passion from them and feel like they care, like how are you supposed to? Like when they don't seem pained after a loss, like after they lose to the Rockets, who were 6-17 coming to that game, like Harden's out at a birthday party after he, really played awful to end the game. Like, how are you as a fan supposed to invest yourself in that? And it's the same way I felt last year at the end of the playoff run, where it was like, I feel so miserable having just watched that. And I need to reevaluate like what I've done. Like, I feel like I'm hurting more than they are. And that's not good. Like, that's like, why should I be all in on a team that doesn't seem to care? And I think that's an indictment on every player in the room. Maybe not. I mean, the role players who played well with the stars out, they'll be absolved. But like, that's an indictment on Joel. It just is. It's an indictment on Harden, 100%. It's an indictment of Doc, absolutely, and Daryl Morey for assembling this team. Like, no one wants to say it, whatever. Like, they're missing something. Like, they're they don't have the energy, the passion that like you can't. It's not like you can't win that way, and like that has to do with how the team's assembled. Their style of play is not very good. Um, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what it is other than this core is probably just not a winning core. Like, and that, yeah, so that brings the GM into it. So, I mean, we can get to everyone I just mentioned, but I want to get your thoughts on Embiid and Harden to begin with, because this season has been extremely lackluster from them. Obviously Embiid had that crazy 59-point game, but I mean, and he's still obviously a very good player, but it's been tough.
Yeah, and I don't think it's like his play, like pure like basketball, like dribbling, shooting, rebounding, whatever play. I think it's all of those like intangibles around his play, like his aggressiveness and his hustle and his like just ability to like take over and like recognize when that needs to happen, that is missing this year. And I think it's been present more in past years. And in terms of Harden, I don't know, like maybe this team is a better team like without him. I mean the team was more fun when everyone was out. I feel like they played better before Harden came back. And now he's back and they look like shit again. I don't think that's like a strictly Harden thing, or maybe it's a coaching thing that someone better needs to figure out how to fit Harden into this team. But whatever they're doing now, it's not working. So that is kind of on Doc. I think it's the coach's job to make the players that he has fit. And he's not doing that, like at all. And I get the like Daryl piece of it, that he put these players together. But I do think that we've seen them work together. Like we've seen a Harden, Joel, Maxey, like we've seen it run well and we've seen them move the ball. Like even like those first couple games of Harden last season, there's been like a couple bright spots this season, but I don't know like why we can't consistently play like that. And I feel like that falls on coaching. So
Yeah, I mean the play style that was so successful last season was like Harden was passing the ball pretty quick in the possession, and like the ball was moving, and when it got back to Harden, he was making things happen. But the whole have him stand around and figure things out, he's not good enough to do that at this point in his career anymore. And I thought he was actually looked really good to start the year, and I don't know, you know, what's happened. Obviously, he's only been back one game, and so we'll see what happens. But the team in general, just they haven't clicked, and I don't know. I don't know what I don't like we've said, I don't think there's one thing to fix. I would love to be wrong about that. I would love if there is one thing to fix and they figure it out and fix it. But everything seems to be off. And, the hope is, there is talent there. And we've seen in the past, I mean, the Celtics last year were, when we talk about the Sixers 12-12, like, as a disastrous start, which it is a bit, the Celtics were, what, 24-25 or something? Like, the Celtics were 500 way more than halfway through the season. And they ended up going to the NBA Finals on a run that I think surprised no one. Like, they looked so good to end the year. They got all the way up to the 2 seed after being 500 with 32 games left in the season. And the hope is, there's a switch to flip like they did, but I don't see the urgency to find it. I don't see the urgency from Doc to try new things. I don't see the urgency from management to look to replace Doc. I don't see the urgency from the players to hold each other accountable and call players only meetings. You hear nothing about any of that. And it's like, who's going to step up and care? Who's going to step up and demand that something changes because this team needs a change? And I'm not sure that's in Joel's nature. I'm not sure that's in Harden's nature. I don't think it's in Doc's nature. And Doc seems to have the backing of management and Daryl. So I'm not sure. And Daryl doesn't, and we haven't heard from him, but he doesn't really, like, he tweets about all, other nonsense all the time. Like, he seems to have other things going on. It doesn't feel like it's, and maybe this isn't a fair judgment, but it, from a fan's perspective, doesn't feel, I'm not saying it's not, but it doesn't feel do or die for him. Like, it doesn't feel like he'll be crushed if this team just doesn't work out. In the same way, it doesn't feel that way for everyone else, really. And it's frustrating because someone with the power to do so on this team needs to create some change. And there's lots of areas it can come from that I've listed before, and it just doesn't feel like it's coming. With that, we can ask this. I think this was Drew's question. I like it. It's very first takey. We could disagree and agree at the same time on this one, which I think is great. Who is the bigger blame for this 12-12 start? Would you say it's Doc or would you say it's Daryl?
I would say that it's Doc because, like I said before, and I mean, like you said, you could say the other thing and I would agree with all your points. But we have seen this team work. And the pieces that Daryl brought in the offseason, outside of, I guess, PJ Tucker, like, I think DeAnthony Melton, I think that he's been, like, pretty successful on the Sixers. I think he's been, like, kind of like a fun, bright spot at times on this team and has seemed to, like, fit well into what they're doing and kind of can provide things that they're missing. The team has shown that they can work. And so the fact that they're not consistently doing that, I think that falls on coaching. So I would put a bigger blame on Doc.
Yeah, I mean, all fine points. Don't disagree with any of them. Nature of the question. I'll take the other side for fun. I mean, I don't think Doc is a top coach, but I don't think he's like a bottom 5 coach in the league either. This team is just slow and checked out. And yeah, part of it's on the coach to motivate the players, but these are also professionals, right? This isn't a college team. These are guys making millions and millions a year. This is their job. This is their livelihood. There's a lot on the line. They should be able to motivate themselves. And a lot of it comes from culture that, that does fall on the stars, right? The stars building a culture like that where guys are all in. I would say in defense of Doc a bit, they played really well with guys out. Joel, stuck up for him a bit, which no one liked to see. But, there's probably something there. I'm not saying I'd be sad if Doc were fired. I think they should fire him. But, he probably, there are things that he does well, including, getting the Sixers through a tough stretch. They like record wise, I think are 2-5 when Embiid and Harden play. And like 10-7 when one of them are out. I believe I saw that stat, which is pretty big of an indictment on those guys. And I would say an indictment on Daryl more so, right? Like where I'm getting at with this is like, we're kind of at the point where I would rather have Halliburton than Harden, right? And Halliburton's really looking like a star. And we on this podcast we're talking about how we wanted Halliburton last year. And we were saying take him while he's there. This is a great player became available. He and other players got traded for Domantas Sabonis, who at the time really was considered to be a much worse trade asset than Ben Simmons was. Not now necessarily, but at the time, absolutely. And yeah, there might be some speculation now of like, oh, maybe the Kings didn't really want Simmons. I think that's a little silly. I think that they felt, they waited pretty long to make a deal. It seemed like they were holding out for Simmons. And, when it came down to it, it was like they seemed to think the Sixers were going to get Harden, and that's when they made the move. But Halliburton seemed to be there. That we heard interest with Simmons to the Kings the whole year. Sam Amick was on this podcast 2 or 3 times to talk about all of the Ben Simmons rumors. He's a Sacramento-based guy. He thought that there was absolutely something there with the Sixers and the Kings. I just don't buy that wasn't a possibility. Daryl went and got his guy who, and I love Harden. I was happy with the trade at the time, but Harden was hurt. Harden had concerns in Brooklyn, and like it's Daryl's job to be able to get the information on that. Like I was happy with the trade, but my assumption when the trade was made was Daryl knows something, right? Like Daryl knows that Harden's going to be back to his old form. Daryl, he has an in with Harden, and he has connections around the league, and there's something that he knows that makes him feel good about that. That doesn't really seem to have been the case, or if it was, kind of seems like bad info. The fit hasn't been good, which is also on Daryl to, find stars who fit, basically. Obviously, I agree with everything you said about Doc too. But that'll be my my take on the other side of it, because I think there's so much blame to be shared between the two of them. Really a fun podcast here. A lot of optimism in this one. With that, let's go to an ad. All right, we're back from an ad, and I'm being told it has recently come to my attention that Tyrese Maxey has some new hair and is back at practice. And Drew, I would love it if you could pull up this hair for our YouTube listeners, because and for me as well, if I'm being honest, because I haven't seen it. And I would love if we could give our take on it. And all right, here it is. Okay, so he has a bit more of a fuller look, not braided. It's in now he could go back to the braids. I don't know. It's in more of like an afro look. I think he looks very nice. Emily, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he looks adorable. I think that it would take a lot more to take him out of our number 1 from our most handsome rankings. I mean, that smile just doesn't quit. So I think he's still firmly in our number 1 spot, at least for me. I don't know if you have a different opinion, but
yeah, I mean, I can't see how this would knock him out. I mean, I think he looks very nice. He looks a little older.
He does look older.
He doesn't look quite as young. He's getting a little older. But no, I think he looks very nice. So I'm glad we got to touch on that. The handsomeness of the Sixers is always extremely important to us. And
it's like a bright spot in this dark.
It podcast. Is. I mean, Tyrese's handsomeness is one of the few things that we can count on not letting us down. And so
sure that.
And so that's great. So with that, let's get to some good news. The Phillies signed Trey Turner. It wasn't going to be Sixers good news. That's crazy. We'll throw this in here real quick. The Eagles are 11-1. That's great. There's plenty of good things going on in Philly sports. The Sixers are not one of those things. But the Phillies signed Trey Turner, and we obviously alluded to that at the top of the podcast. It was 11 years, $300 million, and he's a good player. It sounds like Gene will probably be gone, and Turner will play short, and Stott will go to second. What do you think, Emily? You like it?
Yeah, I like it. I love that in baseball you can just like spend as much money as you want. And so I'm happy that John Middleton is really spending that big tobacco money to get more good players to come to Philadelphia. I think it's cool that Trey Turner wanted to come here. He left money on the table with San Diego. He wanted to play with Bryce again. He said that he saw the atmosphere at Citizens Bank Park during the playoffs and thought that it was like a great place to play and like wanted to be here. So I think that's really cool. Like, good job by Philly for making people want to play baseball here.
I agree. It's nice when guys want to come here, and he he's very good. And like you said, he left I think $42 million on the table. Obviously, some of that the difference in tax between the states, but it
And
was
in
still
the grand scheme of like making 300 million,
Yeah.
like whatever.
I think this is close to home for him. So, it wasn't just the Phillies, but I'm sure, it wasn't any NL team. He wanted to come to, or any East Coast team. I think he was happy to, be in Philly, it sounds like. So, all very good. Bryce has been great for recruiting, not very surprising. Guys want to play with him. With that,
maybe the Sixers should hang out with the Phillies more. Like, the Phillies are a team that really like got it and like got the like fight and the playing for each other and the having fun and like finding joy in the game. Like, they have had everything that the Sixers lack. Like, I think they need to like have like a, like a crossover meeting, like a crossover episode, and kind of like learn something.
I mean, basketball is fun. Like I
should be.
I mean, how many, like, so many people, myself included, play basketball not to get paid, and we're terrible at it, and we just have a good time. And these guys are phenomenal at it. They're the best in the world at it, and they look absolutely miserable out there. And they're getting paid to do it, a lot of money. And I don't get it. Basketball is a good time. It's the kind of thing where, like in sports, it feels like teams that are like, team is fun to be winning, but it also a lot of times feels like having fun helps winning.
Yeah.
And like you said, Phillies seem to be having all the fun. Sixers would definitely benefit from enjoying being on the court a little bit. At least, showing some smiles, and maybe Maxey will help with that when he comes back, get some smiles going. Because maybe that can be contagious a little bit. So we have our predictions and standings coming up. Emily, I'm gonna let you take it away.
Sure. So last week, Dan and Steve were unnecessarily optimistic and picked 2 wins, so they went 0-2. I was 1-1 because I thought that they would lose against Memphis. So me and Dan are tied right now at 9-13, and Steve is 1 game back at 8-14. So Steve sent us his picks. The Sixers now have like a pretty long homestand. I think they're at home all week. So
and then they'll have a long road trip during
Christmas.
Yeah.
So Friday they play the Lakers. And then I think Sunday they play Charlotte. And I want to say Tuesday they played Sacramento. I think
Friday they play the Lakers. Saturday they play Charlotte. Tuesday they play Sacramento, all at home.
Yeah. Okay. So the Lakers and Charlotte are a back-to-back. Yeah. So
no, the Lakers and Charlotte are Friday, Sunday.
Friday. So I was right. Friday, Sunday, Tuesday.
But that's not a back-to-back.
Well, then I thought you said Friday, Saturday. Friday.
I might have
the first time.
I misspeak all the time. It's possible.
It's
but
Friday,
no,
Sunday,
it's Friday. It's Friday, Sunday, Tuesday. So a day in between each.
Okay, so then Steve sent in his picks. He said they're gonna lose to the Lakers, beat the Hornets, and lose to the Kings. My predictions, I think they're gonna beat the Lakers. They just always find a way to beat the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers are very good. I think LeBron is old. Like, I just think they're not very good. So I'm gonna say they beat the Lakers. I think they beat the Hornets, and I think they lose to Sacramento.
So, Anthony Davis and LeBron James are both probable for Friday. So that is relevant. I'm gonna say.
Are either of them playing good right now, though?
Well, Anthony Davis has had a great year.
I believe Anthony Davis dropped 55, and then
Yeah,
either a game or two after he got the flu.
Got the flu.
Well,
Yes,
he got
I knew
sick,
he
so
missed.
that's weakness. Drew.
No, Anthony Davis has been having a very good year. The team is bad. They're 10-14, but they're getting some guys back. The Sixers are miserable. I'm not picking them. I'm not doing it. I'm taking the Lakers over the Sixers on Friday. The Sixers are beating the Hornets. They are just horrible. The Hornets are terrible. And they are losing to the Kings. So they're going loss, win, loss.
We'll have it be known that the Sixers have already lost to the Hornets this year. So
Yeah, that can't happen again. Let's see. So I think that's all we have. Emily, do you have anything else?
no, not really. This has been there hasn't been that much. There's been nothing fun to even talk about.
I agree.
These podcasts have been short because there's nothing to talk about. There's no funny post game comments. There's no fun videos. There's nothing the social team has put out because there's no joy in this team. There's nothing fun.
I haven't seen a Furcon hype tape in forever.
Oh, what I wouldn't give for a Furcon hype tape these days.
Exactly.
But yeah, I've got nothing.
All right. All I want to say is best of luck to Pitt Volleyball. They are looking very good. They're up as we speak. They're playing. They're currently ahead in the fourth set. They're up 2-1. If they win, they'll get in the Elite Eight, which is going to be played on Friday. So make sure you give them a watch if you be into that kind of thing. They are very exciting to watch, as is all of volleyball. Really, it's a great sport.
We're now a volleyball podcast. We're just going to drop the Sixers. We can talk about volleyball.
Honestly, I would be a Pitt volleyball podcast. Those girls are so fun to watch. They enjoy playing their sport. But yeah, volleyball is awesome. Volleyball is a great sport. I recommend it. With that, that's all we have. There were only 2 games this week. They both lost, so why worry too much about it? Let's wrap it up. YouTube is Gastro Blues Pod, a Sixers podcast. Drew's always putting good clips on there. You can watch the full episodes on there. Please go subscribe. Follow Third and Girl on Twitter, GA Pels 13, Steve J. Littman, Gastro Blues Pod all on Twitter. That's all we got. Be safe and be great. See ya.